In this video, I'll show you how to update the firmware on your RG-300. At the time of this video, the best custom firmware for these types of portables is RetroFW. The RG-300 has two micro SD card slots. There is an external one on the left-hand side for storing your ROMs. There is also an internal one behind the battery. I'll just quickly take off the battery cover here and show you the micro SD card. This is the one that holds the stock operating system, and I believe it is 16 gigabytes. I would recommend getting another micro SD card to flash with instead of using this one. This way you can quickly revert back to the original stock firmware if you ever want to, just by plugging in the original micro SD card. I'm going to use an 8 gigabyte SanDisk micro SD, but you can get a 16 gigabyte or even 32 gigabyte, but you will have to expand the partition using a tool of some sort. 8 gigabytes should be more than enough, so that's what I am going to use. So first things first, we're going to download the firmware, and you can get it from this website, jutleys.wixsite.com. I'm going to leave links in the description so you don't have to remember this. But download the firmware by clicking on the picture of the Retro RG-300, and it should start downloading. It's about a gigabyte, and it's compressed using 7-zip, so we will have to download 7-zip to decompress it. Next, we're going to use Etcher to flash or write the image to the micro SD card. So download the version that is appropriate for your operating system. So in my case, it's Windows x86, x64. Next, we have to install 7-zip. So double click on the executable and begin the installation process. Now we need to install Etcher, so double click on the downloaded executable to start the installation process. Next, we will decompress the RG-300 image, so we will right click on it and then choose 7-zip and then go extract here. Once the image is extracted, we will choose that in Etcher. So select the IMG file, click open, and then we want to choose the target, which is our 8 gigabyte or 16 gigabyte micro SD card, and then click flash, and it should start the process of writing the image to the micro SD card. And of course, this really depends on how fast your computer is and how fast your micro SD card is. With RetroFW written to the new microSD card, we will take out the stock one and put it away somewhere safe. And then what we're going to do is pop in the newly flashed one, which I have here. Once the micro SD card is in its place, what we can do now is put the battery back in. So make sure you line up the contacts. And then what you can do here is put the cover back on. The micro SD card with the original firmware, I basically taped it to the back of the battery door just so I don't lose it. You can do the same thing. Turn on the RG-300 and you should be greeted with the new RetroFW loading screen, and that tells you that you have properly flashed the firmware. So the new interface does look a lot better. I think it's cleaner, and it looks kind of like emulation station for the Raspberry Pi, along with a different skin. It will have more up-to-date emulators for the various systems. So let's just run through some of these emulators. So the games or the ROMs are still loaded from the external micro SD card on the left-hand side. So let's just choose some games here. So make sure that you are loading the games from the media folder here. And then I believe the external card is the second option, and then ROMs. And then you want to move down to Game Boy Color, Game Boy, so GC and Super Mario Land. Most of the emulators on this new firmware should be the latest and greatest, so every once in a while you should be flashing it with the latest version of RetroFW or whatever flavor of custom firmware is popular at the time. The time of this video is RetroFW. Now let's try Game Boy Advance, and of course it's still loading from the micro SD card on the left hand side. And let's go back and go down to media. Second option, ROMs, GBA, and let's pick a game here. So let's pick Pokemon Fire Red. Next, let's try Genesis. So we're gonna choose MD. And again, you will have to select the right folder where you're storing the ROMs, and it should remember it next time, so you don't have to do this again, but you will have to do it for every emulator. So that's how you flash Retro FW on the RG-300. The process is fairly straightforward and easy. I hope you found it informative, and I will see you next time.